the room that she shared with Nyssa. "Most of the time I'll be over there. Don't I get a room?" "I was coming to that next." Well, to be honest, she'd been putting it off for as long as she could. She led him down to another of the doors and touched for it to open. "This one isn't being used," she said delicately. Turlough went through and stood in the middle of the room looking around. Tegan hesitated for a moment before she followed. This was Adric's old room. Nothing inside had been touched or moved since they'd lost him. She could understand that it was only fair to let Turlough have somewhere that was within easy distance of the console room and the social areas, but why did it have to be here? She knew the answer, of course, that the pain was a necessary part of the healing, but it didn't make her feel any better. "It looks like a kid's room," Turlough said. Tegan did her best to keep the anger out of her voice. She almost succeeded. "It was Adric's." "Who?" "It doesn't matter, but he wasn't a child." Turlough barely seemed to have noticed. "I've had enough of children," he said. "What with that awful school on Earth." She relented a little. Maybe the doctor was right, and she simply wasn't giving him a chance. She said, "You can change things around to suit yourself." He picked up an interlocking mathematical puzzle from the desk, inspected it, and tossed it back. It rolled and landed on a heap of notes and charts. "All this can go for a start," he said, and then he looked up and smiled, practicing for the doctor. "That's not unreasonable, is it?" "Do what you like," Tegan said stiffly. "It's your place." And she turned and walked out. When she was back in the corridor, she had to stop and take a deep breath. "Steady now, girl. Don't let him get to you. That's how he works. He'll needle away until you explode, and then he'll stand there in complete innocence while you make a fool of yourself." "But why? We've taken him in, sheltered him. Why isn't it enough?" She stood under the corridor lights and listened to the even heartbeat of the TARDIS all around her. It was a good trick for getting calm. Tegan got halfway there, deciding it was the best she was going to manage, and went through to join Nyssa in their shared room. "He's got the manners of a pig," she said. Nyssa looked up from her work, surprised. "The doctor? The brat! I had to show him all around the TARDIS. You'd think he was going to buy it." "Perhaps he'll settle down," Nyssa suggested, but Tegan wasn't about to be reassured. "You know he threatened me," she said. Nyssa laid aside the abacus that she'd been using to check over some data. "Seriously?" "It seemed serious enough at the time." "Why?" "I found him playing around with a roundel. He tried to laugh it off, but he's up to something." "Have you told the doctor?" "Not yet, and perhaps not ever, if Turlough managed to keep the doctor convinced with his pretense of innocence." Nyssa pushed herself back from the bench. Most of its surface was taken up with the intricate glassware tangle of a biochemical experiment, like a funfair modelled in miniature. She said, "Well, that means two of us are having a less-than-perfect day." "Not you as well," Tegan said, and she came over to take a look at the setup on the bench. Nyssa had been saying for some time now that she felt she was losing her grip on all that she'd learned, and that it was time she went over some of the basics of the disciplines she'd acquired on her lost home world of Traken. The glassware and the spectral analyzer had all come from the TARDIS's extensive but haphazardly organised stores, maybe even from one of the rooms that Tegan had identified to Turlough in passing. There wasn't much here that she could recognise, except for the shallow glass dishes in which bacterial cultures were growing, and, of course, the book that Nyssa was using for reference. Of all the storage and information retrieval technologies available to the TARDIS, the Doctor insisted that books were the best. To put all of your faith in any more sophisticated system, he would say, is to ask for trouble. When a crisis hits and the lights go out, the time you need your information most is the very time that you can't get to it. He called it a catch-22.